Well, welcome everyone. I hope you are in the right place. This is the Out and Equal Virtual Executive Forum series. Very excited to open up this session to all of our community. So if you are not registered in Executive Forum, you are still in the right spot. This session is 1 hour long. And please ask that you use your speakers or headsets on your computer, that you have your volume all the way up. You can chat me privately if you have any questions or concerns. As soon as I turn this over to Ash, I will be dedicating my time to looking at the chat and answering any issues that you might have. Please ignore where it says use the question and answer function, because we're in a video meeting, and I realize that now. I should have edited the slide earlier. A video meeting does not have a question and answer function. We just have the chat. At the end of the session, you'll be able to chat in a question. If you'd prefer that I ask it of Ash, we'll also be able to call on folks individually, and you can interact one-on-one. So just make sure to wait until the end for that. I'm now very excited to introduce our guest speaker. Oh, make sure, I think I hear somebody's microphone is on. Very excited to introduce our guest speaker today, Ash Beckham. Ash is a bold, dynamic presenter who speaks about empathy, about respect, the power of having real conversations. Many of you who've been to the Workplace Summit before or are fans of TED Talks, or perhaps have seen Ash join your organization for speaking, know just how exciting and dynamic a presenter she is. Online videos of her TEDx talks, Coming Out of Your Closet, Owning Your Duality, and her bolder Ignite speech, I Am So Gay, have gone viral with more than 10 million YouTube views. So we are very excited to have Ash join us today. And with that, Ash, I'm gonna mute myself, go off video, stop sharing, and turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Isabel. I'm excited to be here. Here we go. This is the nature of sharing the screen and making it all work. All right, here we go. So I'm excited to be here. We're going to talk about authenticity, which I think in a time like this is pretty key. How do we show up authentically? I was just having a conversation with Isabel about, how do we, when we in this environment, how do we see those silver linings? Are we actually able to create more team cohesiveness because we can all be together? We don't have separate offices, and we actually can use this time to be more inclusive. And there are obviously tremendous challenges, but we really can take this opportunity to be authentic and dive into what we want to do. Part of being authentic is showing up exactly as you are, whatever you're feeling. So you can see by the polling, if you've ever seen me do a talk before, I love to do interactive polling. And I think that this really brings us together. There's some vulnerability that comes from being able to say where you are right now. How are you feeling? And so many times it's like, how are you feeling? You're like, fine. That's the response, but that's not authentic, right? That's not what it really is. And to know that we're in a safe space and that we get to do this. We get to be together today. No matter what your day looks like, we've got this hour of really connecting and being with our friends and being with people with maybe facing common issues, but a lot of times, having their own struggles. We know what it's like. For me, just because I'm kind of an open book, I have a 2.5-year-old, and in the last 4 weeks, he has decided that sleeping in his bed is just not where he wants to be. So about 3:30 in the morning, he crawls in bed with us and then proceeds to, I don't know if it's just like sleep tap dancing or what he does, but it ends up with my wife and I each having separate slivers of the bed, and somehow him taking up the entire center of it. So I get the tired, I get the exhausted. There's this like, ooh, yearning for the weekend. I love that. There's just so many different dynamics, and to have the concepts that we've had in our lives for so long be upended and have to create these new routines and new accountability, I think is so great. One thing that I wanted to remind everybody is that at the end of the presentation, I'll have all of the polls that are out, and we'll send them. They'll be accessible, so you'll really be able to see what they are. Also, everything's anonymous, so feel free to do it. Ooh, hopeful. I loved it. It's so great. It's so fun to see where people are, right? Because I feel like for so many of us, we've felt all of these, right? You have those moments. It's this wild roller coaster, and that's part of authenticity, right? It's being exactly who you are in the moment, and being true to that, and knowing what that means. So we are going to start moving through. So when we think about authenticity, and we think about leading with authenticity, right? There's this different dynamic between I am authentic, I strive to be authentic as a person, and I want to create an environment where authenticity thrives, where the expectation is that people are authentic. If that's the case, right? If that's what we want to do, that I want my team, my organization, my community, my family, whatever our group setting is, to be authentic, we need to know how to get there. We need to have a common language of what that looks like. So when we look at it, what is authenticity, right? So this is where the polling comes back in. So we're going to move to the next one, which is what makes someone authentic, right? What are those basic, and if you've already logged in, you don't have to join again. You just can type your answers to the same text number. What is authentic to one person might not be authentic to somebody else, right? And so as we move through the presentation, we can look for these commonalities, common language, and also to narrow down what we mean by authenticity, but also expand it, right? That if we're gonna set this as our standard of what we want to do, we really have to know what somebody else's version of it is, right? So, and one more caveat, I guess. I'm not, any of you that know me, I'm not a real big rule person. But there is going to be one rule for this presentation. It is being recorded. So if you can't be present, if this is just like your background noise while I get blown up emails, boo. Like I understand it. I'm fully there with you on that. But what we're going to do today is show up. We're going to change or accentuate our behaviors, give ourselves accountability to be 100% present. So if you've got other stuff going on, all the power to you, but please just leave the meeting and check out the recording, because we're going to break into small groups and we're going to get into these dynamic conversations about authenticity. And I don't want somebody to show up and have somebody half present, right? Have somebody not there. You don't have to necessarily be on video, but be present. So if you can't be present, part of authenticity, like somebody said, is being honest, being real no matter what. That's up there right now, right? So when we do that, we have to own when we can't be there. So if this is just your background audio, and again, this isn't about me, I'm happy to be your background audio. It's about your community, about the people around you, because to create these environments where people feel safe, where people feel like they can be vulnerable enough to be authentic, they need to know that they're in a trusted environment, in a present environment. So that's the only rule. If you're going to be here, be here. And if you're not going to be here, I'll catch you on the recording, and you can email me directly with any questions. We can redo it one-on-one if you want, but really be here for the people that are around here. Be here for your community. All right. So when we go into authenticity, and it's more of a feeling, right? It isn't like a box that you check or an article that you read at the grocery store checkout or any of that. It's being 100% you, like somebody said in one of the responses, but being exactly who you are, not this polished version of yourself, this realness, this trueness to who you are. And that's not always, the shiniest version of you. That's not always the polished version of you. It's the honest and true version of you. So that's stepping away when you need to. That's leaving the conversation when you feel like you can't have it in a productive way, right? Being honest of how overwhelmed you're feeling at the time, right? Just having these true and honest conversations. So for me, I learned about authenticity a while ago, the kind of idea of what it felt like. And if any of you were at Out in Equal 2018, you heard the story, but it's an important one to me. It's pretty fundamental in my understanding of authenticity. So I want to share it with you again. Now, a few years ago, I was on I took a trip to IKEA, as you can see from the previous slide. And it was a frantic trip, like they always are. I ran in to get a shower caddy and an end table, walked out with a 3-piece sectional couch. Thought it was a good idea. I tried to call my wife. I think they intentionally make sure that your phone doesn't work in there, because I was like, well, she'll have to really hate it to make me drive it back. So in the back of the 4Runner with bungees barely holding it all together on the highway, I was driving home and called my parents to catch up. They were on vacation, and my mom was telling me all the places they'd gone to dinner. My dad and I were catching up on the softball business that we ran together, and I was pulling into my driveway, finally getting home, and we said goodbye. And I was talking to my dad, and I said goodbye, but I didn't say I love you. And that's a thing in my family. You always say I love you. And if you don't, you call back just to make sure the person knows, right? And I would call back every time. We'd have these annoying back and forth of like, did I say it? Did you say it? Okay, all right, love you, bye. Multiple times. But that time I didn't say it. But I had half a couch coming out the back of my car and a daunting IKEA project in front of me. So I didn't call back. And later that night, after I put the couch together with the use of a hammer that was definitely not in the directions, I got a call from my mom on vacation. My dad had an aneurysm and he was in the hospital, and I never spoke to him again. My sister and I were able to fly out and see him, but I never heard his voice. And he passed away about a week later after a hard fight. And like anybody, right, I just would beat myself up about why didn't I call back? I always effing call back. Why that one time I don't call back, right? So I would obsessively trying to make up for it. I would call people back. I'd call my mom back to make sure we said I love you an equal number of times. I would call my wife back to make sure she was absolutely certain she wanted Mexican for dinner that night. I would even try to call telemarketers back so they knew that I wasn't interested, right? You get in this obsessive role of either making up for it or not making the same mistake twice. And then eventually I had this vision, I guess, of my daughter, this input that was like, Ash, it's not about calling people back, right? You're going to make yourself crazy. And that's not authentic to who you are. What you have to know, what it means to be authentic, is that people know who you are. It isn't about a single action. It's about these cumulative actions that you do over your life, that the people that you know, that you love, know you love them so much that you don't have to call back, right? That's authenticity, is that people know who you are. They know what you stand for. And that doesn't mean that you're boring or predictable. It means that you're real. That there's some things that can go without saying. That time after time, in the same situation or in varying situations over and over, you're going to be the same person. That you're not swayed by these moments of crisis, right? That you are you in all situations. And so that's what the authenticity means to me, this ability to bring your whole self and be you, and not only to have confidence in who that person is, but to know that your contributions to your community are better when you are fully yourself. So as we start to go through this process, how do we get there? I don't think people want to be inauthentic. I mean, granted, there's like a handful of people out there where that's their thing, but the people that we're talking to, certainly the people on this call, we strive to be authentic. We just don't have the tools to get there, right? That we either have a fear that holds us back, or we're just not well equipped enough to bring our full self. So when we get there and we're figuring out how we want to interact, if we take at face value that people want to be authentic, they just don't know how, what's holding them back, right? So what's the main reason people can't be? Well, and this is, authenticity transcends work, right? It's who you are in every environment, interaction with your kids, with somebody at the grocery store, with your spouse in a disagreement, with the people that report to you and the people you report to, right? That kind of integrity between all those environments, that you yourself are solid, that you yourself have your feet on the ground in any of those environments is different. And granted, the way I converse with my friends at the bar is not the same way that I talk to a client, but in my root, who I am is the same person, right? That I value honesty, that I value direct communication. And that's the other thing. When we talk about it, the biggest way to create an environment of authenticity is through our communication, right? I can know who I am. I can believe that I'm authentic, but if I'm not projecting that and holding myself accountable for that, if I'm not communicating that to my team, then how are they to know? It's great for me, but it stops there, right? How do we expand this notion? So when we look at this, the main reason people are not authentic, overwhelmingly always, is fear. Fear of repercussions, punishment for being who they truly are, or fear of being judged, right? That them being fully themselves, them being authentic, them saying that they're having a bad day, them sharing the conversation about the challenges they're facing, right? That will have a negative impact on them professionally or personally. So our job as leaders, again, this isn't about, I mean, to a certain extent, it's how are you authentic, but how do we create authentic environments? We're so much bigger than just working on ourselves. An integral part of it, but that's not where we stop as leaders. We create broad, big, far-reaching circles where people not only see that acting and interacting authentically is the standard, but we're better because of it, right? So as leaders, according to this, it is our responsibility to create environments where people are not fearful. If we know what's holding people back from being authentic is their fear, and we can eliminate that fear, we've taken care of 2/3. That's 2/3 of the people in our organization that could be more authentic. 2/3 of the people in our lives that could be more authentic if we as leaders can remove or at least mitigate that fear. So as we move forward, know that that's our responsibility, not just to walk the walk, right? Not just to be authentic ourselves, but to create an authentic space. What we want to do is create this culture of authenticity. That is the bar. That is our expectation. It's out of character. That it feels disingenuous to not be authentic. That's kind of how we know we've crossed the path. That isn't just something that we're striving for. It's just who we are. It's integrated into our being, right? And when we do that and we have those expectations of others, they inevitably rise to the occasion. Granted, they have to feel safe, but they will rise up. So this is an incredibly simple process to get to that authentic truth, to know that we have to bring our whole self, right? That when we have conversations, when we make decisions, when we create content, when we do anything, that we have to be fully authentic, right? That there are these spaces of our body that we speak from. And so this is going to be our work today is to go into each of those spaces, to understand fully these multiple components of us. If we talk about what we think, which is our head, what we feel, which is our heart, and what we want, which is our core, when we go through those pieces, we're bringing our full self. And again, a lot of times in work environments, not all of those are welcome. We could be in a situation where it's fully based in facts, right? That's all people want are facts, or it's a little bit more touchy-feely, but it's this whole and complete integration of ourselves that we bring to the conversation and expect from everybody else that leads to authenticity. It's our check-in to make sure we're authentic. So the head piece is, I think these are facts about who we are, how we feel about a topic, right? Or what we think about a topic. So these are things that you could legit find factually. You could go on the internet and search them, but you have to be on a real website, but you can figure this out, right? So I'm 47. I'm married. I grew up in Ohio. I have a son. These are all of the things these are just facts about me. I can give you 1,000 things about how I feel about growing up in Ohio, or how much I adore my wife, but that's not this piece, right? This is just the head piece. These are factual things, right? And a lot of us, when we're like, I'm in my head too much. That's it. We get caught up in this really pragmatic, analytical piece, and that's crucial, but it isn't a full holistic version of who we are when we communicate. So the heart is the center part, right? So the heart is how I feel, and this is probably the one that is least celebrated in organizations, right? But this is if we look at that very first poll, right? How are you feeling today? I'm a myriad of things, right? I have joy, I have gratitude, I have exhaustion, I have fear, I have uncertainty about what the future looks like. What's it gonna look like in 63 days, right? Like, where are we as a community? How do I feel about that? And those are rarely a singular feeling, right? It's all of the feelings, and it's bonded. And this one is no facts, right? When you speak from your heart, it's all the feels, right? And so this one has a vulnerability piece. So when we're getting our teams to speak in this way, they have to know that they're in a safe space. And then the third one is the core, right? Your gut. This is kind of your manifestation center. And a lot of times we're, people want to know facts. They usually don't want to know how we feel. And then there's this weird version of telling people what we want, right? What we envision, what our goals are, especially specifically for women, but across the board. We don't walk around saying what we want. But when we disengage from what we want, what drives us, then that's also not bringing our full self to work, right? And to know what our intentions and our motivations are, to leave that off of our team and out of our perspective when it comes to anything, is leaving a little bit of ourselves behind. And if we're not fully there, then we're not authentic. So that's kind of this concept of what we're going to go through, right? Head, heart, core, and the ability to speak from separately those three places, and to take all of that information collectively to be authentic, and to when we approach problems or decisions we need to make, or being creative, that we're making sure that not only we individually, but our team and our organization is mindful of those three areas that they speak through. So we're going to go to our third poll. So I want everybody to come up with a topic, and you don't have to, you can share it if you want to, but come up with a topic, anything that you want to work on, that you want to, might be a decision that you're trying to make, might be some content you're trying to create, a purpose that you're trying to set, a truth that you're coming to, and feel free to share this. And obviously we all have 1,000 things that we're working on. But the topic that you're going to come up with is something that you're going to share with two people that are part of the organization. So it could be a personal something, if you're willing to do that. Could be a professional challenge that you have, but think about something, a topic that you really want to perfect. Where do I want my career to go, right? Like what drives me? How am I going to solve this problem of feeling stretched so thin when the kids are in the house and I'm supposed to maintain my job and educate my children, right? What does that feel like? So yeah, so all of these are all great things. See one that you like, right? Or come up with one on your own. And again, make sure that the one that you have in mind, and that's the best thing about this, actually, I should scale back. So this head, heart, core exercise that we're going to go through, which is going to take 5-10 minutes, is this simple, repeatable model. Now, just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy, but it's this repeatable model that you can use. It becomes the way you analyze all of your decisions, right? Is making sure that you're in touch with these 3 points of yourself. So this is something that you can do 1,000 times. So if the one you initially came up with feels too personal, or you don't want to share it, feel free to grab on one of these, but make sure you have something that centers you in this process. So as an example, mine's going to be, let's say that I have to create content for my team around the importance of an inclusive workplace, right? So I know that the current challenges that we're facing with this, long distance team building, that we still need to maintain inclusion, right? And so I want to be able to have this conversation. And again, I'm creating content. So my topic is about creation, just as like a sample topic, right? So I'm going to start with my head, right? So what are the facts that I know, purely facts that I know about an inclusive workplace? So this is what it's felt like to me to be included or excluded, right? There's no feels. This is like straight up robot facts, right? And again, like that's, some of us thrive there. That's like where we exist. It's where we feel safe. Other people are like, nah, fact schmacks, right? But we have to go through each of these, and you'll know when you tell your brain to go through this process of thinking about just facts, your whole dynamic changes. Like when you tell your head where to speak from and hold yourself accountable about it, then it kind of lets it all out, right? So for me, if I'm doing facts and I'm creating this content and I'm speaking from the head, I know that ethnically diverse companies outperform the average median within their organizations. I know that gender diverse companies outperform at a different level, right? I know that inclusion in the workplace, just by the numbers, and not necessarily just diversity, but coupled with inclusion, increases the bottom line performance of the organization. This is just like facts, right? So So I want everybody, we're going to break out into rooms. Isabella's going to take care of this for us. We're going to break out into rooms, and we're going to take 60 seconds. So we're going to break into groups of 3. So if you want to get out of this and you're not feeling interactive or whatever, now's your time. You got like 10 seconds to bail, or you're going to be in a group of people. We're going to go through 30 seconds. I'm going to use the broadcast function to tell people when we need to switch to the next person. But what I want you to do is share the topic that you want to discuss. And you don't have to be on video. I mean, if you want to, awesome. Doesn't matter. If you just want to do audio, just be present. You're going to take 60 seconds each. You're going to share the topic that you came up with, right? So again, my example was creating content. And you're going to speak just from your head. So that can be an introduction of yourself. That can be the facts that you know about it, but just stay on the facts, right? And so we're going to rotate through 60 seconds each person. Again, I'll broadcast to the rooms when we switch, and then we'll all come back together. All right? Ready? Isabel, you ready? We're going to switch, put them into groups right now. Go. All right, everybody, welcome back. It might have been a little, the logistics on my end might have been a little bit messed up. So Isabel, feel free to help me explain this a little bit better. But when we do breakout rooms, I think you have to click join, and then you'll be put in a breakout room. So sorry if you weren't. And then we'll rotate through, and then we'll send a broadcast message of when we're going to switch to the people. But essentially, it's going to be, you know, a third of the time with each person. So, so now that we're back, I would like anyone who's willing to share what their I think statements were, right? So how do we really get in everybody's head? Or maybe an I think statement that somebody in your group shared, right? That this kind of factual kind of dive in, what did that feel like? And a great conversation I had with Will Fox till he got upgraded to a better room than hanging out with me, was that, you know, that there's really within his organization, there's this, the D, and like the D is there, but the I is not there, right? And so to miss the equity and the inclusion piece is, you know, how do we go around educating people in that? So really delineating the difference between, you know, checking the boxes and making people feel part of the community. So yes, here we go. I think I need to be a better manager and work harder on employee engagement. So that's a great one, right? I just factually, I need to improve in that, right? So no, there's no feeling, no judgment, no anything, just a fact. So hopefully that just the feeling of being in your head was something that was a useful exercise, I guess, in moving forward. So now we move on to part 2, right? So we've done the head, facts. Now we do the feels. So this is the one that's sometimes a little bit harder, especially in work environments. So when we go back into the rooms, I want you to talk about, take your topic and only speak from your heart, right? Only how you feel about it. So for me, so remember my topic is creating, I need to create content for my team on the importance of inclusion. This is like, well, I guess it depends on who you ask, but in this context, this is like my wheelhouse, right? This is like the feels are where it's at. Sharing those stories about what it feels like to experience inclusion. So for me to go into a space that I don't know, or be able to go into my work environment and feel like I can't do something because of who I love is enraging to a certain extent, right? To be presumed to be a certain gender is frustrating, and I'm angry when I don't feel seen. I also am sad because I want to engage with my coworkers at a certain level. I want to tell them what I did on my weekend with my wife, right? I want to be able to dive in that way, and I'm sad that I can't. I feel isolated when I don't feel like I can be part of the team, or we can't share our common stories, right? And that's what people remember, right? Not what you tell them, but how they make you feel. So this is where we can really dive in. Again, there's vulnerability that comes with this one. So as we engage in this, one of the things that I like to do is you put your hand on your heart and just take a deep breath, right? You just do like and then just get into the feels. And again, when we're talking about it, we know that these feelings that we have, there's a variety of them, that I can simultaneously be excited and angry at the same time, that I can be joyous and grateful and have regret at the same time. So kind of go through that process. So this time it's going to be 2 minutes per person. So when we go into the rooms, it'll be 2 minutes per person. And then Isabel will bring you back after those, we'll get the kind of 1 minute countdown at 5 minutes that we're coming back. And again, people have the opportunity to share those feelings via the poll, but it's really about diving in with your group. So, and again, this is just, any of you who's ever seen a presentation of mine, this is like my favorite picture of all time, because it's that feeling, right? It's this kid has the feeling, we know what it's like to have that feeling in the pit of your stomach. Feelings are so relatable. Even if experiences are not common, feelings are relatable. That idea of, looking over the edge, stepping back, having feeling in the pit of your stomach, looking over your shoulder, letting the person behind you go, right? That anxiety that comes from doing something you've never done before, from kind of diving in at that level. But the thing that I love the most about this picture is that the feeling that kid has in the pit of his stomach, which is the same one that we all know, all the kids sitting on the edge who've never jumped in the water have that same feeling as well. It doesn't matter how high your board is. We all know what it feels like to be excluded, what it feels like to be judged, what it feels like to not be safe, what it feels like to be celebrated, right? We know what those things feel like. The circumstances are less important than the feeling. So again, this is where we're really diving in on those commonalities. So we're gonna go, Isabel's gonna set up the rooms in the next 10 seconds. So again, if this is not your jam and you wanna jump out, it's good. It's no harm, no foul. But if you're going to be here for the integrity and for the authenticity with the other participants, I would hope that you dive in. Okay, so 2 minutes each person. Well, I'll see you back in 6 minutes. Okay.
Conversation's going. We're good. We're done. Okay.
I love it. I love people that are just pushing the body. Just keep talking afterwards. That's amazing.
Sorry.
There's never enough time, right? All right, good deal. I think everybody's coming back. And sorry for anybody. I think if people were leaving the call, maybe the groups got messed up. So and it's harder for us to jump into every room and try to figure out what's going on. So if you have any issues, just come back to the main room and for this next breakout, and we can kind of have the discussion there in a larger group format. So, and you can really tell, I think, when you do that, I feel like everything about you changes, right? To move physically from speaking from your head to speaking from your heart really, really changes how you're looking at the world, what you're accepting, how engaged you are on the topic, or, there's no right or wrong. These are just different parts of us. And I guess the idea of this concept is to really dive in, to know that to speak with full authenticity, we have to have the ability to break down these things, to put it all back together, right? To make sure that in these conversations, we're not leaving part of ourselves out. So again, that none of these are better or worse than the other. They're just different, and we all feel comfortable speaking from different places. But vulnerable, but I like it. God, I feel like that needs to be like, I don't even know, either a tattoo or a hashtag or maybe a Katy Perry song, like something. I love that. And I feel like there's something, it's so odd, right? This environment that we're living in right now, although we all have different dynamics, who is in our home, precautions that we're taking, where we live, all of it, we're all having this similar experience right now in this shared communal experience, which is such a rare thing that happens, that we're literally all in the same boat at the same time, or maybe not even in the same boat, maybe in the same sea, on different boats. But but I feel like taking this opportunity to again see those silver linings and be fully expressive of the fact that we get to share like this. We get to have this community, we get to feel connected. I feel like I was excited to have 300 of my closest friends in my home today. You know, there are these moments that we just we'll never have again. And I don't know, I think when we get back to the way the world was before, maybe we're grateful we don't have to do it again. But I think that there's this learning experience that comes from where we are, and to be able to take advantage of that and take these opportunities to be vulnerable, to try new things, to be more inclusive, to kind of reestablish who we are and the leaders we want to be. To see like this is why I love all of you so much, because you just say these feeling financially comfortable, but sometimes passionless. Like that is so real, right? Security and also blah sometimes, right? Like that is just authentic and honest. So I appreciate everybody's willingness to speak from the heart. So we're going to move on to the third one. And so, okay. So this last one is the core, right? So this is this manifestation. This is relative to the topic that we just had. What do I want, right? What are my desires, my passions around it, right? If you think like the quintessential core speech is Martin Luther King, I have a dream, right? Like I have, this is the dream I have for my children, right? That someday they'll be judged not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character, right? That like just in there, like this is what I want in the world, and I'm going to tell you about it, right? The highest aspirations, but this is what drives me, right? That feeling, that gut, that's what we're talking about. So when we go back in around the topic, so for me, right? So mine was creating this content about an inclusive work environment, right? But what I want is for, in my workplace, everybody to be able to come in and be fully themselves, that they're not taking an ounce of energy that could be put towards our common purpose or our personal engagement towards hiding who they are. I want everybody to be able to, you know, put up a picture of their spouse and not worry about the conversations that happen at the water cooler. I want people that are parents of children of color who just the night before had to have their first conversation with their son about what to do when they get pulled over by the police, to be able to find support and a compassionate ear, not only in their coworkers of color, but in their white coworkers as well, right? That there's this understanding that you can tell me how hard it is, and I'm here to listen and support you and not to judge you, right? To know those challenges and be empowered to be an ally, an active ally, right? That's the environment that we create, that by in an environment where people can be fully themselves, not only do we gain a better understanding about the people around us, but we're empowered to be better versions of ourselves, to be active in the pursuit of the things that we're passionate about, not just the things that serve us, but that serve the people that care about us, right? That's what I want. I want my job to be a safety net. I want people to get me, to share in my triumphs and in my failures, right? And to know that that's a place that I'm caught, because they care about me more than as a number, but as a person. And by creating an environment that's authentic, that's where that can happen, right? So like, that's just an example of a want, right? This is the world that I want, but I'm very aware that we don't live in a utopian society, that all of a sudden I don't snap my fingers and all of those things come into place. So what I know is true is that I can be the catalyst, that I can create an environment where in this space, maybe in my office or in my cube or on my team or at our organization, that I am a safe space, that I am actively reaching out to create an environment where people feel safe, that in this group, however I define that authenticity is the bar, right? Not the thing that we're striving for, but that's what we do, right? So those are examples of wants. So really get into that one. So we're gonna Whoops, wrong way. So we're going to move into the breakout for we're going to do two more, but this is the last one around this, right? So we've done the head, we've done the facts, we've done the heart, we've done the feels. Now we're going to do the gut. We're going to do the manifestation, right? Of what moves you. And if you can think about getting to know within your team of what motivates people, then as a leader, you have the ability to channel that energy and that intention and that passion in the right ways, right? If you know what drives people, then you have the ability to enable those situations to come true, right? That you can get people rowing in the same direction, but rowing at their most powerful pace if you know what drives them. So we're going to do, again, 1 minute each. Isabel's going to do it. So we're going to do 60 seconds per person. When the second person is done, you'll get the call back for anybody who doesn't have a room, or if your room gets messed up, just stay in the main area and we will chat it out. Everybody else, I'll see you back here in 3 minutes, okay? All righty, looks like everybody's coming back.
Javier, if you can put that in the Teams meeting, that'll be awesome.
All right, here we go. All right, so I think we're back, and I know we're getting close on time. I want to be respectful. I'm willing to stay later, but if you got to move on to your next thing, I appreciate you coming and really dialing in and being present for this. It is amazing, and the connection that we have. I would encourage you to reach out to people that are in your that you had that back and forth with, to be able to exchange emails, or have an accountability partner around this process, right? We just kind of started to dig in, and obviously this is something that you can do. This head heart core piece is something you can do individually, but having somebody to bounce it off of is always helpful. So I think that's key. So to reach out to people that you worked with. Okay, here we go. So here's some great wants, right? These are amazing. These are, oh, humanity ambassadors. I love that. I feel like I gotta look up what that is. I mean, I get it conceptually, but 2 capitals made it seem proper. So I feel like I need to get on the humanity ambassador train. Yeah, there we go. See, this is so great. People dialing in, right? And that's the whole thing is it can be something personal. It can be something as more as, I want to have more energy and zest, to I want to add more value, right? Like we're all over the place, but we've had the same experience of speaking from that core, that manifesting place, right? That gut. So I'm just going to wrap it. Oh, there we go. There we go. We're back to that. I'm gonna wrap it so people can move on. But again, that when we speak from all 3 of these places, when we take into consideration both, what we think, what we feel, and what we want, we get this more holistic view of our opinion on anything, of why we're moving forward with something. It enables us to create content and create teams and create speeches and, have intention around what we're doing, how we launch a new brand, right? How are we in touch with all of these parts of us? And so as a leader of your team, if this is something that you find value in and you think would be useful, you don't even have to dive into it as far as a topic. You can go around at your next meeting, your next Zoom meeting, and have people introduce themselves from all of those places, right? That there's this snapshot, and it allows you to see parts of your team in a way you've never really seen them before. Knowing, it just gives you an insight to the things that motivate them or how they're feeling. And again, this is something that's simple, but doesn't mean that it's easy. And another way that I've found, just if I'm trying to make a decision, or whatever, driving to pick up my kid from school, any of us have audio recorders on any of our smartphones, right? It's an app you can get for free. If you have an iPhone, it comes with one that you can't get rid of if you wanted to. But a lot of times you just riff, right? Like don't think so hard. It's not that deep. It's what you're processing in the moment. So you can go through and say, I think, boom, 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 boom. I feel, boom, 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 boom. I want, boom, 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 boom. And if you just let yourself go, just let it come through you, it's brilliance that comes out, because it's not manufactured, it's real. So this can be an independent thing that you do. And then obviously if you record it, you can go back and listen to it and pick it apart, but don't do all three of them and then go back and listen to it, right? And again, this isn't something that we need to overthink or we need to figure out. So I would like everyone right now, like, we know this kid, we know the feeling that doing something scary. So what I would like everyone to do, and you have to do it right now because we're about to go into Q&A, but in the next week, I want you to commit to taking one action relative to that topic. That could be something as simple as writing an email to your boss to say that you want to sit down and talk about D&I on the team. That could be something personal. If you want to have more energy and more of a zest for life, how do you dive into some new books that are out there relative to that, right? How do we find that inspiration? Do commit right now to yourself to one thing that you're willing to do in the next week towards that topic. Okay, and that's the thing. Like as leaders, to be more authentic, we have to be willing to be a little bit uncomfortable. We have to recognize and then also welcome that feeling in the pit of our stomach that we get from that picture, because we know we're doing the right thing. We know we're growing. We know we're moving forward when we have that feeling. So do something. I would say do it by the end of the day, but holiday weekend, so by next week. But take that action, take that one little step in being more authentic and more yourself. We're not going to go through the 3 minutes on this one, but when we're talking about authenticity, again, there's no way to be authentic. It's about being true to you. So that canvas is blank. You can make it whatever you want to be, as long as you're honed into your own truth and your own sincerity. So I'm going to wrap it there. But again, we're going to do the Q&A. Welcome to hang out. If anybody wants to reach out to me directly, it's Ash, ASH, at Beckham, ASHBECKHAM.com. And I would love to have any feedback, or I'm open to, of course, all of that. I'm sure Unequal has a form for feedbacks, and then we'll get both the polls and the deck up on the site. I would say that's kind of Isabel's call. So I'll get it to her sometime by the end of next week, and so it'll be on the site. So thanks again for taking the time. Thank you so much for being present and being part of this, and being willing to be vulnerable. And I would encourage everyone to keep those conversations going. If you want to do a video chat, raise your hand, or you can just kind of go through the Q&A. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Ash, so much for joining. I see folks are starting to drop off for meetings, but we'll stick for a minute until the number goes down, just in the event that there are any questions. I think at this point, the group is small enough that you don't even need to raise your hand. You can just kind of unmute yourself and jump in if you need to. I'm seeing a lot of thank yous in the chat. Glad, Richard, you enjoyed your breakout conversation. I hope folks made contacts. Again, we'll post the recording by tomorrow. We'll follow up with the polls in next week when Ash has those available. So if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself. And I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording just so folks don't feel pressure to have their questions be on the recording itself.